On the phone with me right now is a good friend of the program, Ann Coulter, the syndicated columnist and the best-selling author of In Trump We Trust, E Pluribus Awesome. Although reading from her last couple of columns, especially the one today, she's not giving Donald Trump any breaks at this point. She's saying you got to build the wall. They don't call it the Great Tweet of China. And Ann, I think you're exactly right. But what I can't figure out is how Donald Trump has gone the 243 days you talk about, and hasn't done any of those things. Was he never serious about the wall to begin with?
I think he was. I mean, the plus side of Donald Trump is he has great instincts. I think we're often suspicious of politicians, but I think Donald Trump is someone you could throw a glass of cold water on in the middle of the night, ask him, what do we do about NAFTA? Should we build a wall? What should we do with Dreamers? And he would get the right answer, whereas most politicians would not, but would figure out, better not say that. His instincts and his heart, I mean, going back years, he's been good on amnesty. He's been good on the wall. He's been good on protecting Americans and American jobs. I think the downside of Trump, which, we always saw, I was hoping it would not interfere with his stewardship of our country, are his massive personal insecurities. And he's just, surrounded himself with absolutely the worst people you could possibly get. We know from, reporting that he wants them to look right, and he thinks it's cool to have generals around him. And, these guys are billionaires. But, as I've pointed out in other columns, Kim Kardashian is a billionaire. This doesn't, only to someone who is massively insecure is that an impressive fact in and of itself. Take someone like Gary Cohn of Goldman Sachs. Yeah, he's a billionaire from running up, from destroying the economy. I mean, he was one of probably 5 or 10 people most responsible for the mortgage crash in 2008, and we, the taxpayers, ended up, making him whole. No, Wall Street can take these bets. If it's profitable, they get 100% of the profit. If they make the wrong bets, sorry, that's where you come in, taxpayer. So he has all these, he has more Goldman Sachs people than Bush or Obama did, which is baffling. Wall Street hated him even more than they hate most Republicans. He owes them nothing. But I was thinking about this, as indicated in the column, seeing, instantly after a hurricane, and appropriately, he's down, handing out cheese at the food banks and sending in the FEMA aid and shaking up Congress, and we got to do this right away. Well, in these two hurricanes, a few, less than 200 people died. If you take every hurricane and every direct death from a hurricane, you can't count the indirect deaths because the media loves to drive the numbers up, and some people are just going to die when
right.
a hurricane is in town. It could just be a heart attack he was going to have anyway. So you can't count the indirect deaths, but all deaths from a hurricane, I am counting tree branches falling because of the hurricane or drowning because of the hurricane. It came to, I forget what it was. I can never remember numbers.
Like 300 and some odd in the last 12 years, right?
332. And in 12 years, well, we know from a government that refuses to tell us, but thanks to Adios America, I've teased some of these statistics out. About 350,000 illegal immigrants are in state and local jails and prisons alone, not including the federal prisons, and about 3,500 for murder. The average time served for a murder is 6 years. So that's already 7,000 dead Americans because of illegal immigration in the same time period as only 300-odd Americans have died because of hurricanes. And you throw in the 30,000 deaths from heroin and fentanyl. 100% of heroin in America these days comes from Mexico. More than 90% of the fake fentanyl comes from Mexico. Well, we're now at 37,000 deaths. So why isn't he treating the crisis on the border with 200 times the urgency, the emergency of a hurricane. We thought that he understood all this and he would behave this way. And I will say again, because you will hear lies about this over and over again, he doesn't need Congress. This is the military's job to build border walls, fortresses, cannon holders on our border. The job of the U.S. military is not to keep other countries safe. It is to keep our country safe. And for most of the military's existence, this is why we have an Army Corps of Engineers. This is why we have the Seabees. They go around building stuff mostly on our border.
Right.
The Fort McHenry, we wouldn't have the Star-Spangled Banner but for the governor of Maryland having the foresight to build a wall and a fortress with cannons known as Fort McHenry, which protected Baltimore right after the British torched Washington, D.C., and would have made their way straight up the eastern seaboard, but for the great battle where they were stopped at Fort McHenry. This is what our military is supposed to be doing. They're not supposed to be dying for no point in Afghanistan, even if there were a point. They're not supposed to be building walls to protect Jordan from Syria. They are supposed to be building walls to protect our country. He's the commander-in-chief, and as I say at the end, he's not going to get out of this by blaming Congress or tweeting, funny things about Hillary Clinton or nasty attacks on the media. He's got to build the wall, and nothing else matters.
Well, and in fact, the suggestion you make that if he had used the Seabees and the Corps of Engineers and said do it, in a way it would be legal but similar to what Obama did, because Obama realized if I do DACA as an executive order, when the next administration comes in, even if they try to unwind it, the fait accompli of putting it in place makes it 10 times harder to get rid of it, because then you can say, well gosh, but these people are here.
Sense, but I would not draw the comparison because you do hear, this is not what you're doing, but you hear a lot of this on TV, this implication that there's something, shady about executive orders by themselves. No, a legitimate executive order, the president of all three branches of government, the executive is the only one where 100% of the power of that branch of government is held by a single man.
Right.
With Congress, it's every member of Congress. With judiciary, it's, probably more than 1,000 federal judges, plus bankruptcy judges. Only the executive branch. We have one commander-in-chief, one man who is the executive. So, yes, of course there are legitimate and appropriate executive orders, but the important point I think you were making is anything Trump does on immigration is going to be overturned by the next president.
Unless it's a wall. Unless it's a wall. If it's a
only
wall,
a wall is forever.
That's what I'm saying. It is if you did it as a fait accompli and said, look, the Seabees are building it, and by the time the next administration, whenever that is, 2020, 2024 comes in, they can say
they're not going to knock it down.
No, they're not going to knock it down or knock holes in it. And he could do that. What surprises me is he stood up to his daughter and said, no, I'm pulling out of Paris, or at least for now he's out of Paris. He stood up to the president of Mexico and said, I am not going to go to the American people and tell them we're not building a wall. And yet with his own people that are his employees, he's apparently not standing up to them.
No, I know. It's utterly baffling. And, we keep starting the clock on, as I did, on January 21st, his first day as president of the United States. But, as of midnight on November 9th, he knew he had won the election. This nonsense about how, I'm interviewing architects, that should have started on November 10th.
You're absolutely right. Her book is called In Trump We Trust, E Pluribus Awesome, soon to have new appendices probably added to it. And her columns are no, but one of the things I admire about you, Ann, is that you, and I think I try to do this as well, you stick to your guns, and if you say Trump's going to give us a wall and then he doesn't, you don't try to make excuses for him. Ann Coulter, you can find her at anncoulter.com. Thank you, Ann. You're listening to The Lars Larson Show.